Daredevil Season 3 is out tomorrow on Netflix, and I couldn't be more hyped for it. Without a doubt, this series has been the best thing to come out of the entire MCU, in my opinion. It's taking inspiration from the much appreciated Born Again story arc from 1986, where Kingpin knows the identity of Daredevil and uses an imposter to frame the Man Without Fear. Now there's a lot more to the storyline, which is why I'm going to be reviewing its elements today. Let's see how it compares to its live-action counterpart. Starting with issue number 1, Apocalypse. We see a dimly lit room with a sleazeball named Raldo talking to a frail-looking Karen Page. She trades the identity of Daredevil to him for a shot of heroin. Karen is definitely at the lowest point of her life here. We then cut to Kingpin and his associates on an ocean liner. Kingpin is given the envelope containing the valuable information and orders everyone that came into contact with it be killed. 6 months later, we see that Matt Murdock is behind in his mortgage payments. His bank accounts have been frozen, and his accountant doesn't want anything to do with him. We also see that a police officer named Nicholas Manolis has accused Murdock of paying off one of his witnesses in a court trial. Murdock returns home, stating that the bank has threatened to foreclose, and reveals that he has been writing checks and paying off his bills in a timely fashion. The bank, mysteriously, just never cashed them. Matt also believes that the Daredevil side of his life is the only one worth living now, because his regular life has took a turn for the worst. It's become downright shitty, let's face it. Murdock, as Daredevil, confronts Manolis in his apartment, but is unable to get any information out of him. He listens in on a phone call regarding Manolis' sick son needing treatment, and that he promises to follow through with everything he has said. We then cut to a glimpse of the Kingpin, watching his ruthless plan unfold. He seeks to bleed Daredevil white. It was him who made Murdock's checks to the bank vanish, and he blackmailed Manolis to appear in court and testify against Murdock. By doing so, Matt is stripped of his law license. We get a sense that Kingpin is fighting back his impatience. He wants to just kill him, but he knows it will be much more gratifying to watch him suffer. Murdock starts to believe the world is out to get him, even his longtime friend Foggy Nelson. When he approaches his home, he hears a rumble and the entire building explodes. As he kneels in the rubble, he clutches the remains of his Daredevil suit and vows to get revenge on the Kingpin, realizing he's the man behind it all. Issue 2, Purgatory, begins with Daredevil fighting his hardest battle yet, against the evil Lord Doorknob. Without a home, Matt is forced to live in a dumpy hotel, and in his exhaustion, has no energy to confront the Kingpin, or even go outside. He visualizes beating up Fisk to a bloody pulp, only for it to be revealed as a dream. Murdock laid right back down, and had fallen asleep. Later, on the subway, when he finally has to leave the hotel, a group of criminals rob some of the people on it, and Matt doesn't do a thing. It's only when a gun is pointed at him that he proceeds to fight back, brutalizing his opponents and even a police officer that gets in his way. His rage and emotions are getting the better of him and are clouding his judgments. Murdock decides to go right for Fisk Tower and confront the Kingpin himself, but in his weakened state, he is easily defeated and beaten within an inch of his life. Kingpin has Murdock's unconscious and broken body thrown into a stolen cab and driven off a pier into the East River. Kingpin admires his handiwork, but soon comes to the realization that Murdock survived the ordeal. Pariah begins with Matt, now homeless, living on the street. Ben Urich visits Officer Manolis at the hospital where his son is being treated and awaiting a life-threatening operation. We see that Karen Page is trying to leave town, even to go so far as perform sexual favors to do so, meeting a shady-looking gangster. Manolis' son dies, making the untruthful statements he had said earlier pointless. Urich promises to write a story on the whole thing, only to have his fingers broken by a nurse on Kingpin's payroll. Officer Manolis is roughed up pretty bad too. Murdock collapses while punching the bag at Fogwell's gym, only to have an old nun enter and kneel beside him. Kingpin realizes that he may have strengthened Daredevil in one of the best lines throughout the entire storyline, that a man without hope is a man without fear. The fourth issue is the title issue, Born Again. Matt awakens in a church to find he is too weak to stand. He is being cared for by a nun named Maggie. While this is happening, Ben Urich is conflicted about whether or not he should continue with his story after his hand was broken. J. Jonah Jameson is disappointed in him giving up on such a story, and we see that Urich is constantly being watched by Kingpin's goons. Officer Manolis calls Urich at the Bugle to give his side of the story, and Ben refuses to admit that Kingpin even exists. As he speaks with Manolis, the butch nurse from earlier finishes him off while he lay in his hospital bed. She lets Urich listen to every last gasp of air escaping the officer's lungs. The fever grows in him. No earthly force can stop it. He has lost too much blood. His body cannot fight. He will die. But he has so very much to do, my lord. His soul is troubled, but it is a good man's soul, my lord. He needs only to be shown your way. Then he will rise as your own and bring light to this poisoned city. He will be as a spear of lightning in your hand, my lord. If I am to be punished for past sins, so be it. If I am to be cast into hell, so be it. But spare him. So many need him. Hear my plea. Matt notices the heartbeat of Maggie sounds familiar. The cross she wore and put around his neck is the same one he felt soon after his accident that gave him his powers. He asks her if she is his mother, and she denies it. However, Matt knows she is lying because he hears her heartbeat jump. The next issue is Saved. Matt hits the gym bag again, preparing for his return to action, juxtaposed with Kingpin, sitting with his associates, which all seem to be losing their faith in him and his endless pursuit of Matt Murdock. Remember, no one knows Matt is Daredevil but Kingpin. Lois, the hired nurse from earlier, goes to Ben Urich's apartment and roughs up his wife. Urich and another officer named Hegerfers arrive, and a struggle ensues. Ben finds his wife Doris hanging from the shower nozzle by one of his ties. Matt returns and fights Lois off, while Ben can cut her free, noticeably horrified. Kingpin arranges for a psychopath to be released from prison to rough up Foggy Nelson and dress up as Daredevil, allowing Kingpin to frame the hero. After arriving at the agreed location, the Psycho kills one of Fisk's hired hands and is then attacked by the returning Matt Murdock. He puts up a fight, but Matt is victorious after a swift kick. Murdock then proceeds to save Karen Page from her sex-fanatic lover Paulo before she can relapse into drugs once again. God and Country takes the storyline to another level. We're introduced to a new character named Nuke, an extreme and sickeningly patriotic psychopathic terrorist who uses colored pills to control his aggression and adrenaline levels, red to increase it, white to balance it, and blue to bring it down. The Kingpin hires Nuke through a corrupt military general and sends him to kill Daredevil. Nuke attacks some civilians, and Matt is forced to put on his suit and come out of hiding, despite wanting to wait until the time was right. And last but certainly not least, the final issue, Armageddon, sees Daredevil battle Nuke on a rooftop. He notices Nuke's speed, lack of ability to feel pain, and that his bones are made of something stronger than a human skeleton. Nuke even survives being electrocuted and covered in fire. The Avengers arrive to take Nuke away with federal orders, but Captain America is not impressed. He investigates the files on Nuke and comes to the realization that he is also a super soldier, the only man out of 20 test subjects to survive, a man named Frank Simpson. Nuke soon escapes his captors and downs a whole bottle of red adrenaline pills, causing Captain America to take action, knocking him through a window. The two fall onto a neighboring rooftop and crash right through it. Daredevil reaches them as they are shot at by a helicopter and takes the weakened and critically injured Nuke away. Daredevil steals a cab and refuses to take him to the hospital, instead bringing Nuke to the Daily Bugle. I don't really understand why he does this. It appears that Nuke is dead, or at least will die shortly. All he's really doing is leaving a soggy and bloody body on Urich's desk. It was probably explained in a later issue, but as of right now, it's a bit confusing. Kingpin is lost, and is outed as being responsible for Nuke's attack on New York, which claimed the lives of hundreds of people. Angry ex-employees testify against Fisk in court, and he faces multiple charges. Those close to him and his organization have lost confidence in him, at least for the time being. The storyline ends with Matt and a much healthier-looking Karen walking down the street while Matt reinforces his duty of protecting Hell's Kitchen as Daredevil. Born Again is one of the better Daredevil storylines that has him fight all the odds and come back from near death in order to defeat the Kingpin and take his life back. To many fans, this story is considered a masterpiece. It focuses much more on the Matt Murdock side of his character than it does the Daredevil one. Ben Urich, Karen Page, and Foggy Nelson also get a lot of time with their smaller stories too. Urich is investigating the Kingpin, Karen is on the run from her abusive boyfriend/stalker and is in search of Murdock, feeling guilty for what she had done to him. I mean, she caused all of this, selling him out for a simple heroin fix, and Foggy is getting a new job, reflecting on his past with Matt and focusing on his relationship with Gloriana O'Brien. Born Again shares many similarities with Batman Nightfall, in that the hero is pushed to his absolute limits, both physically and mentally, before being essentially broken. He has to crawl back out of the muck to come out victorious, not an easy feat. In Nightfall, Batman needed the help of Lady Shiva to train himself and return, whereas Daredevil has Mother Maggie come to the rescue and restore him back to health. Kingpin and Bane also share the same level of obsession and personal vendetta against their respective protagonists, stopping at nothing to bring them down. Born Again is a pretty focused narrative and well-paced story, much more streamlined than Nightfall and the like. It dives into themes of struggle and identity. Matt is forced to survive with virtually nothing to his name, and when he is healed and strong enough to return as Daredevil, he is sort of reluctant to do so. He wants to bide his time and wait for the right moment to strike, though Nuke forces his hand. Much like many Daredevil storylines, Born Again has several religious undertones within it. The title itself is a common phrase in Christianity spoken by Jesus himself, according to the Bible. Many of the title's splash pages throughout the story show a progression of Murdock laying comfortably in his bed, then in a fetal position in the trashy hotel room, an even tighter fetal position, homeless on the street, and finally in a position similar to the one of Jesus when he was on the cross, signifying Daredevil's rebirth. Born Again is one of my favorite Daredevil storylines and one of my personal favorites from Marvel. With that said, I admit the stuff with Nuke is a bit unnecessary in my opinion, and I find the story veers away from its focus a little bit when he pops up. I think if they had a final face-to-face confrontation with the Kingpin, it would have been much more effective, and a way for Daredevil to truly stick it to the big guy after everything that had happened to him. The Nuke battle was a way to pin stuff on Fisk in a domino-like fashion, but I don't think it was entirely needed. The ending felt a little rushed because of it, in all honesty. I don't even think the Avengers or Captain America needed to be in here either. I read the collected edition, which includes Daredevil 227 to 233, so later issues might have tied up loose ends a little better, but I'm reviewing Born Again by itself, and not factoring those into everything. I would have liked to see more of Maggie in the story. After Matt guesses she is his mother, she just disappears and it's never brought up again. I know they wanted to keep her a mystery and more stuff would be fleshed out down the road, but still. Everything bad in this story also happened because of Karen Page. How quickly and easily Matt forgives her was a bit unbelievable as well. I know they are in love and longtime friends, but she made him lose everything and almost had him killed. At that point, I might question a few things. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Born Again is the main inspiration for Season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix. They seem to be taking a lot of elements from it, with Kingpin knowing the identity of Daredevil and turning the city against him. He also has someone dress up as an imposter Daredevil to frame the hero, which is obviously Bullseye, rather than an unnamed psychopath like in the original comic. It appears to have a much stronger focus than it does in the original story, which I think is a great idea. Nuke plays a substantial role in the last few issues of the storyline, being the final opponent Daredevil must defeat. I don't think the character will find himself in Season 3 simply because he was already adapted into Jessica Jones as a character named Will Simpson. He used combat enhancers in the form of colored pills, much like Nuke does in the comic. Simpson was featured predominantly in Season 1 of the show and was then killed in Season 2, so yeah, he isn't coming back. Overall, Born Again is an outstanding Marvel comic. It has its issues, which I already stated, but I do believe it's deserving of its masterpiece moniker. If you want to see more comic book reviews like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share the video to help support me. I really want to do more of these comic book related videos. After all, it's where all these great ideas and characters came from. Take care guys, and I will see you in the next one.